All right. Well, welcome everybody. As everybody's getting loaded in here, we've got a lot of attendees today. We just wanted to quickly talk about what this webinar is. Today we're talking about cost accuracy. This is an introduction to cost accuracy and why it's critical and where some of the cost errors come from and how they impact your margin, inventory value, and financial reporting. This session sets the foundation for our deeper workshop that's coming up in 2 weeks, where we'll walk through the exact workflows in System 5. So here to demonstrate today is Charlene. Let's get started.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Welcome, everyone. So this marks the second topic in our 2026 webinar and workshop series. My name is Charlene, and I manage and work alongside other System 5 experts in the implementation team, and I'm really happy to see the interest in today's topic. We do have a short 30 minutes, so I am going to get right into it. And there we go. So why are we doing this webinars and workshops, and they're back for 2026? We did some live events, which we're not stopping doing, but one thing that we did find is that there were barriers to people attending the live workshop, being away from the business, having to travel, and the expense. So throughout the last couple of years, we really found that there were some topics that rose to the top and were really important and valuable to our customers. So we thought, well, why don't we try doing this in a virtual way where there's less time commitment, there's less cost, and then you can still get the value that we've come to know is pretty popular with our customers. So today, really the approach is to take 30 minutes and introduce the topic. And today's, as Kyle mentioned, is cost accuracy. And in a couple of weeks, we're going to take more time, an hour and a half, 2 hours, to really dive deep into what the cost accuracy is about, where we get into configurations, end-to-end workflow, and that type of thing. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen here, we've got windwardsoftware.com/training, and we have the entire series plotted out for the year, and really each one builds on the next. So as an example, we're talking about the importance of cost accuracy today, but later on in the year, we're going to be talking about reconciling. And if we've already got the cost accuracy in place, the reconciling should be so much easier as you prepare for the end of the year. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing. The cost accuracy is this today and next in 2 weeks. And then we're going to shift over and pivot into barcoding, real efficiencies that can be brought to making of orders, using our sidekick for that, or for inventory counting, your physical inventory count. And that picture on the screen there is one of our colleagues, and really that was a live event where instead of standing up at a podium, you get a little bit of a video of me, and then I'm going to drop off to give you more screen real estate as we work through our cost accuracy for today's topic. Okay, so this is where, just bear with me a second, or I'm going to stay on the screen the whole time. I apologize for the fumbling. Okay, there we go. All right, so what are we talking about when we talk about cost accuracy? Well, this slide kind of captures it, that it's not just an accounting issue where people in finance are going to be concerned about cost accuracy, but the operational risk side, because it really ultimately comes down to that fourth point around decision making. And you're going to see a lot of groups of 4 in what I do today just to keep me on track. But what we're really talking about is the accuracy of our margins. They really depend on having the cost against the inventory at the item level accurate, because it affects all transactions that happen to that inventory record. When I say all transactions, if we bring a product into System 5 and the cost is not correct, well, that's going to follow it through into the invoicing where we sell the product, and we're going to be recording an inaccurate cost of sales as well as depleting our inventory because it's at the wrong amount. When I talk about inventory, it's really the next point, and that's inventory valuation. Your balance sheet account for inventory is really what holds the value of your inventory. And whether it's yourself as owners, as key stakeholders in the business, whether it's lenders, really having the wrong value on your balance sheet, if it's understated, the business looks to be weaker. If it's overstated, it looks stronger than it is. Keeping that data accurate really is a way of saying, well, this is the value that I have to then incur profit because I can sell that inventory. So it really does affect your margins. It affects the inventory value and then your cost of goods. So as I previously mentioned, when you bring that product in, that is ultimately when we sell it going to be cost of goods. And the decisions that you make around things like pricing or vendors that you want to work with or just the business performance really does come down to the costs being accurate. And that's why we're talking about it today and really feel that it's an important thing to be looking at. So then it comes to System 5, because you all are users of System 5. And why can cost accuracy break down in System 5? And again, my groups of 4, really it's around receiving stock. And there's lots of things that can happen there where you receive stock before the vendor's invoice arrives, and then the invoice value is different than what you expected. That is going to lead to incorrect costing. We're going to look at ways, a couple of workflows, 4 of them, in fact, where we can tackle some of those things. Things like freight charges. That's not considered at the time of receiving. It's not really reflecting your true landed cost. And that can be a business decision to either have it as part of the landed cost or track it separately. But those things, they can impact based on how you choose to treat it. And then parcel shipments and split invoices. So if you deal in large purchase orders where you've got multiple lines and each one, I shouldn't say each one, but let's say you have partial shipments where they ship some and then they ship more and then they ship more. You could have a single purchase order with multiple invoices from your vendor, and it can just become a bit confusing. Those are things that in the deep dive we're going to talk about. And then of course your cost errors compound over time if you're not on top of them. And that speaks to what I was referring to earlier about later on in the year, we're going to talk about inventory reconciliation and how do we keep that. The reconciliation process can be easier if we're taking steps to make sure things are accurate now. And, I think one of the biggest challenges that people face is that there's a lot going on in your business and there's multiple people that are in System 5. So trying to come up with the perfect workflow can really be tough. And we've got some best practices, but at the same time, I completely understand that in real life, it doesn't always work that way. So I'm going to walk through some workflows, and they're all going to happen within the course of 5 minutes, where in reality, they're happening in your business over the course of possibly days. Okay, so what is the financial impact? A little bit of repetition here, but we don't want unreliable margin calculations. We know what that can lead to. Again, really coming into that decision-making. Same with your inventory value inaccuracies, all leading to poor decision making. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide because it does repeat a bit, but it's really that. We want to make sure margins are right, your balance sheet's accurate, and that you're able to make good decisions. Okay, so where does cost accuracy live in System 5? Well, certainly with receiving. That's where it starts because that's where we bring our product in and that's where the cost is captured. If it's different, but by the time that the bill gets here from your vendor, well, that's where we've got that inaccuracy. That leads to our AP bills, matching the vendor invoices to POs, just to make sure that that final costing is complete. The 4 workflows that we're going to talk about start simple, and we're going to walk through the perfect workflow of purchasing, receiving, and then the accounts payable bill. And then we're going to add on some things that can make that a little bit different. Your adjustments, that's where that's going to fall in. How do we correct costs when the vendor pricing changes and we don't know up front? And then ultimately the reporting, as long as we're doing all these things, the receiving, the AP bill matching, and doing adjustments in the right way, then our reporting should really follow through with that. Okay, so that's not bad. At the 10-minute mark, we're going to get into a live demonstration. So I'm going to bring up System 5, and we're going to talk about 4 things. The 4 things that I want to talk about today are going to be some key fields when we are talking about cost of our inventory. That's very different than pricing, but I'll talk a little bit about that. But first, the 4 key fields. Best practices of a purchase order to receiving to accounts payable bill. And then we're going to look at doing price increases. You're going to get a price increase from your vendor, and you actually know that at the time that you receive and how that can update your key fields. And then, of course, a price change after the product has been received. Okay. I'm going to start with the key fields. So we're just going to look at an inventory record. And I'm going to pull up, we'll go into Love Seats. This is just a demonstration version. I'm sure that there's a variety of different industries in the room, but everybody has furniture, so I thought I'd pick that. We're going to look at this Love Seat. And I'm going to call out some fields. And I appreciate that there is also, besides various industries, there's also likely various knowledge of System 5. You may have been using the system for many years and you're quite fluent with these, the different things that I'm going to be talking about. You may be a newer user and this is all new to you, but I do hope that there's something that you can pick up from our time today. The first key field is the standard cost. I'm going to identify this because you'll see that it's highlighted in red. That standard cost is what you expect to pay from your vendor. So we're going to talk about how that can change because you may get a price increase. But the standard cost is a key field. It's also what defines what you sell this Love Seat for. So the first key field is our standard cost. The next key field is over in your retail section. And this is where the pricing to your customer is defined. So I feel that this is a key field because you can do it in a variety of ways. Right now, it is marking up from landed. So the landed cost, if we come back here, was $350. So it's going to mark up from that $350, 57.14% to generate our selling price. I bring that up because if we have a change in our cost from our supplier, well, that in turn is going to affect the selling price. So that's one method. People can also do fixed pricing, and fixed pricing means it's not doing a calculation, you're just setting the price. I feel that this is a key field because it does impact us along the way when we're talking about changes in our costing. Okay, so second key field. The next one we're going to look at is cost and stock levels, and this is going to need to be supported by our first workflow because there's just not a lot in here. But this is where we can list out our stock lines that we have that are in stock, and each one can carry a different landed cost, if you will. Hopefully you're not getting price changes that much, but it does show what you have in stock. Okay, so those are the key fields. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to take this inventory part and let's walk through the ideal workflow. Okay, so we're going to come into the purchasing section and we're going to create a new purchase order. And we're going to purchase that Love Seat. Now, oftentimes you will have different people doing this role than the person doing the finance role, unless you're a smaller company and you're kind of wear jack of all trades and wear a lot of hats. But what we're doing here is identifying that we want to purchase this item from Alpine and the cost is $350. So bare bones simple, we're just going to send this purchase order. And I'm not going to do any printing because we're really focusing in on cost today. So again, the whole workflow likely will take days. This is going to take a few minutes. So we're now going to edit the purchase order to bring it in. So when that purchase order comes up, this is just a standard item. We're not talking serialized or anything. We're receiving this product in and we're going to receive it. Okay. The first thing that we're going to, the next thing that we're going to do is it's going to shift over into the accounting department where they're going to be entering a bill or an invoice, vendor invoice that you receive. And on that bill, it's going to have the purchase order number. It's going to have the dollar value. So we're going to go ahead and walk through that. Again, this is the perfect scenario. So we're going to pick Alpine. And as an example, I'm just putting in a bill number. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put in $350. I'm going to add some tax. And I'm going to save this because I want to show you the first value add that I'm going to give you. And that is you can enforce the matching of POs to your bills based on supplier. There's a screen in the PowerPoint when I come back to that that explains that a bit more. But if you're trying to introduce this type of a topic, or sorry, workflow, then that can be helpful. So what it's telling me is that you don't have a match. You're not matching anything to your purchase order. Best practice is to come into the PO, and we're then going to find our purchase order. So it's the one that I just did. And we're going to select against the received line. And what this is going to do is it's going to match it to the purchase order. So the bill and the PO are matched, and that helps with reconciliation reporting. If this is a different value, well, then we've got a mismatch. So we're going to add the POs, and that's going to bring this over onto the purchase order. And now I can add my tax, and I can save the bill. That's the perfect workflow. There's no changes made. There's no anything that is different. It's just ideal. We create the purchase order, we receive it, and then we add the bill in. So now we're going to walk through that, and I'm just going to go and quickly show you that inventory item again. And then we're going to do that with two different scenarios. So first I'm going to bring this back up. Now we have the one in stock. And what we're going to see here is those key fields that I identified, well, none of them have changed because everything was as we expected it to be. But we do have in the cost and stock levels that stock line indicating that one has been received. We'll click on that PO field. We'll show you the PO number. But now we see that we've got one in stock. So next workflow that we're going to walk through is the same thing, but we've got a price increase, and we find out about it at the time of receiving. So we're just going to create that purchase order again. And add that item in. Okay, and at this time, we're just sending off the purchase order. When it comes time to receiving, the second value add that I'd like to show is that when we change this, so now it's saying that it's $3.99. We see that on our packing slip, and I don't know how realistic that is with everybody, but the hope is that vendor relationships can have some level of pricing that gives you that upfront, where it's perhaps monthly price lists or something like that. And that might be outrageous of me to suggest, but if you can have it up front, at the time of receiving is better. And then we're going to do a fourth one where it's the price changes after we've actually received it. So we're going to go ahead and receive this. And this is the second value add that I want to bring up, where it's a setting. And what this does is this will prompt the user to update the cost for inventory item because it sees a change. Do you want to update the standard cost because this is now your new cost from your vendor? Or is this a one-time thing because it was shipped expedited or something like that? So that's the decision that's made. And with that, I say yes, it's going to update the standard cost. And if you recall, one of those key fields was how we price to our customers. Well, it would change that because we're going to increase the cost from $3.50 to $3.99, and the customer price is determined by a markup percent from landed cost. So it will change it. So that becomes part of the decision making. And you'll see in the config, there is a few flavors of updating the standard costs. So when we say yes, this little report generates, and we can either choose to save that to file or print it. And that may be because you want to have controls over the updating of standard cost, and maybe that item should be audited for appropriate customer pricing. So that's a nice add-on. We're just going to come back and we're going to take a look at that item once again. Now we've got 2 in stock, and our key fields now will have changed. Because I chose to accept the price change and push it back to the item, it's no longer $3.50, it's $3.99, and the list price is $626.99. when it used to be $549. So that will have, well, it didn't change in here, but this just demonstrates that. So individually, working with a business and they're talking about pricing strategies, there is the discussion on, does it make more sense to do a markup and protect your margins, or do fixed price and control when you want to change that pricing? Now in our cost and stock levels, we have 2 line items, and this will operate based on first in, first out. So that the next love seat that we sell is going to be costed at $350, and that's going to go through the financial piece. And we have that bill that was entered as the $350. Now we have one that's at $399 because we recognized at the time of receiving and we changed it. So now when we add our bill in, it's going to be the same. Like, there's nothing that's out of the ordinary. It's going to be the same workflow that we just did. So if we add a bill for Alpine, and then we do our appropriate process, there's our $399, and then we can add the PO items. Not too much exciting there. It's the same thing. And then we save our bill. Okay. The next workflow is really the price changes after you've actually received the item. So again, I'm just building on the very basic workflow where it's straightforward. We purchase, receive, the bill comes in. Second, we purchase, at receiving, we know there's a change, and then the bill happens afterwards. But what do we do when the price changes after? And this one's a big one because it's got a lot of variety to it. If we do a purchase order, and we're going to purchase this one more time. A lot of it comes down to the timing of the events that happen. So right now, timing isn't really going to impact this, but we're going to order that one. And it's now $399 because we updated it. We're going to send this PO off. And now we're going to edit the purchase order. And we're not going to do anything here because we don't know yet that the price has changed. We expect that it's the $399. That's our standard cost. So now we're going to receive it in. Okay, so now it goes over to the finance team, and we're going to add our bill like we've done in the other scenarios. We're going to follow our process of going to the POs tab first, and we see that it's marked at $399, but I don't have an invoice from my vendor for $399. The bill says $415 as an example. So what can we do here? There is the ability, and I'll pause for a moment. Recall when I said that what I'm doing is happening in the course of a minute or two. In reality, this could be days that it's happening over, but you have a bill that is not reconciled to the PO. And you need to be able to ensure that it's accurate. So we've got a purchase order that was received. An option, now every option has caveats, but an option is that we can then come back into a configuration in the system that allows you to edit completed purchase orders. Now I'm going to walk through this because it's an option, but we will be diving deep into this in the workshop because there are flavors of it as well. Editing a purchase order that has back orders on it doesn't work. So this is a good workflow, but it has to be under certain conditions. So we can edit our completed purchase order. And oh, I got caught. I don't have the deselect that.
While you're looking for that, we're about 25 minutes in already.
Yep, I'm watching the time. This is the last one.
Okay.
Thanks, Cal. So I can edit this purchase order, and it's recognizing that there needs to be a link between the two. Supplier bill and PO need to match. So it's saying if you're going to change it here, change it on the bill. So we're going to change this to 415 and re-receive it. The other caveat to that is that if you have that item already sold, that's a bigger discussion because it's already done. It's posting at the wrong cost. So now if I just toggle out of here and back into POs, there we have that updated 415, and we can choose to complete the process of the bill entry. So you can see that there are some variations in what can be done, and every business is going to have its own uniqueness to it, but there are different ways that we can approach it, and that's really where the deep dive in the workshop comes in. Okay, so to keep on time, we've got about 5 minutes left. I did want to just let you know that, okay, so the webinar, what we're trying to do today is to really provide some education foundation. Understanding why costs are accurate, understanding why accuracy of cost is so important, and where in System 5 can it break down. And really that's the start of it. If we understand where it's happening, then we can look at building out workflows that address it. With the workshop in 2 weeks, we're going to do the step-by-step procedures, get deeper into the different scenarios, any configuration, and a few of the topics that we missed, like handling freight, partial shipments, and cost adjustments. Those things are going to be covered in more depth. I did want to leave you with the usage tips. So within the setup wizard, anything that you churn on in the setup wizard should always be done in your training first to make sure that the business impact is low. You need to define that it's going to work for you first. So that's under suppliers and payables and supplier options. And you can enforce for specific supplier records that they need to be matched. The PO needs to match the bill. And that really does help a lot. So create a lookup word against the supplier and set it in here, and then you can test out that workflow. The other is to prompt users to update the standard cost when receiving. So you can see there's the flavors that I was talking about. There's a prompt, but you can do only if or if then to be able to bring that updating of standard cost if you've got price changes. Okay, and then just the resources. The links are at the bottom, and you will receive this recording. So, we've got our self-help, the things that we talked about today. You can look them up. We've got our Windward knowledge base. A good one in there is inventory reconciliation, and then the Learning Academy. You can search by tag. Same thing. You can take a look at what's in there. If you don't have an account in the Learning Academy, you can talk to your AM, and we can get you signed up. It's included with your maintenance. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kyle just to talk a little bit about the workshop.
All right, thank you. So if today's session sparked questions like, how do I actually do this in my system? This is your next step. What we covered today was the what's possible with better cost accuracy. The virtual workshop is where we show you exactly how to make it real. So on April 2nd at 9 a.m. Pacific, we're hosting a virtual workshop focused on unlocking the full workflow inside of Windward. This isn't a high-level theory. This is a comprehensive end-to-end walkthrough of PO bill matching, cost adjustments, and everything that Charlene already mentioned there. So when you do an individual workshop, if you buy an individual workshop, you'll get the full recording of that session. For those of you that bought the 2026 bundle, you'll get a landing page containing all of the session recordings plus supporting handouts that you can use as reference when implementing it with your team, all in one place so that you're not keeping track of 10 separate recording links. Registration is pretty simple and it's self-serve. Just head over to windwardsoftware.com/workshop. All of the workshops are listed there. If you want the whole list of workshops and webinars, that's at windwardsoftware.com/training. So if you prefer, you don't have to self-serve. You can talk to your account manager to have them invoice you instead. So if cost accuracy matters to your margins, and it should, this workshop is designed to help you turn insight into action. So with that said, let's move on to some Q&A. For those of you that are on the web, you probably have a little question mark with a little chat bubble. That is for questions and answers. And Charlene, if you want to get back to your well, I don't know if this one's going to require the demo or not, but our first question came in from Karen. Does FIFO or does System 5 use LIFO, FIFO, or some other method for costing? And then also a follow-up question is, does FIFO apply to both balance sheet and inventory valuation?
Yes, it does. So it does FIFO. The only other option we have is average costing. So FIFO would be the first in, first out method that we follow. And it certainly does apply to balance sheet and inventory valuation. So first in, first out is going to be the oldest item in that list. So back on that, let's see if I can bring that back up. Back on that inventory item, when we actually sell something in System 5, it's going to reduce the 1,200 valuation account on your balance sheet, and it's also going to post to cost of sales, and that's all going to be based on the landed cost of the item. The exception to that is if you're serialized, because serialized items, you are choosing the very unique serialized item, and that could have a cost that's not driven based on date. Now, this looks a little bit odd because it starts on the 19th and they're all on the 19th, but it still is, this is the first one that went in. It's the first one that's going to come out.
Okay, more questions. If you have them, throw them into the little icon that says questions. Karen says thanks. I think you did a very good job explaining, Charlene. There aren't any more questions just yet. We'll stall for a minute or two here to see if any more pop in here.
I think it's a bit challenging when you go through something that is brief and quick like that. That I think the workshop lends better to taking off the mics and just having conversations about each individual experience. But I thought it was good, and I appreciate everyone's attention. We're a little bit over time, but not too bad. So I think we can just wrap it.
Yeah, if you have other questions, feel free to send them over to webinar@windwardsoftware.com, and we'll get it to the right person, whomever it might be. There was one more that just popped in.
Yeah, I
from
just saw
Scott.
it. Yeah.
Will the workshop cover foreign product being received?
Interesting. It wasn't on my agenda, but Scott, if you show up, I will.
There you go.
It's a good topic. If you've got foreign, it is worthwhile talking about it.
All right, well, let's leave it there. Again, if you have any questions, just let us know. We'll get back to you as soon as possible, or we'll get you in touch with the right person. The recording of this will probably be within 3 days. We'll have it on windwardsoftware.com/webinars. So we have all of our previously recorded webinars, not workshops, but webinars listed there. All right, thanks for hanging out with us, everybody.
All right, see you all.